Hello, I am Marvin Sparger, and I'm going to inform you about the Billy Goat Curse and how the Chicago Cubs broke it. I'll give you a little history. The Cubs were one of the first 8 original teams in baseball, and they were originally called the Chicago White Stockings. Of the first 11 championships in baseball, the Cubs won 6 of them. In 1903, the Cubs changed their name from the Chicago White Stockings to what we know them now as the Chicago Cubs. They were the first team to ever win back-to-back World Series in 1907 and 1908. 1908 would be the last year the Cubs won the World Series. They also captured pennants in 1910, 1918, 29, 32, 35, and 38. They went to the World Series all those years, including 1945, but did not win a championship. That brings us to the day of the curse. On October 6, 1945, a local tavern owner named William Billy Goat Cyanis and his goat Murphy attended the game in Chicago. They were stopped at the door by the ushers, and Mr. Cyanis was told that he could not let his goat into the game. Well, he appealed this decision and wanted to speak to the owner of the Cubs. At the time was P.K. Wrigley. P.K. Wrigley said that Mr. Cyanis could attend the game, but the goat could not come in because he stank. So the owner was very upset about this, and Ledden says that his quote was, "The Cubs ain't gonna win no more. The Cubs will never win a World Series, so as long as the goat's not allowed in Wrigley Field." The Cubs lost that game and ended up getting swept by the Detroit Tigers and lost the World Series. After the World Series was over, Mr. Cyanis wrote a letter to Wrigley, and part of that letter said, "Who stinks now?" And "Wait until next year" became the Cubs anthem. So after 1945, there were other mysterious things that showed that the Cubs were actually cursed. You had the 1969 Miracle Mets. The Cubs had a 25-game lead going into August, and during a game against the Mets, a black cat ran across the field. The Cubs ended up blowing a 25-game lead and lost the division to the Mets and never made it to the World Series. In 1973, Mr. Cyanis' nephew brought a goat to the Wrigley Field, and he brought him in a limo and had a red carpet, but he was still denied entrance to the field. So in 1984, the nephew again brought the goat to Wrigley Field, and he was finally allowed to walk across the confines. But the Cubs still blew it in 1984, getting swept by the Padres. In 1989, the GOAT was again allowed entrance to Wrigley Field, and the Cubs lost in the National League Championship Series to the San Francisco Giants. Which brings us to 2003, the Steve Bartman play. The Cubs were 5 outs away from getting to the World Series when a fan interfered with a foul ball, and it started an 8-run rally by the Florida Marlins, and eventually the Cubs lost the series and still did not make it to the World Series. And the most recent one was in 2015. The Cubs looked like they were going to make it, but were stopped by the Mets, and especially Danny Murphy. Murphy's Law. These are a few facts about the name Murphy. The owner of the Cubs, the last time that they did win the World Series, his name was Charles Murphy. The name of the GOAT that Mr. Cyanis brought in and was denied entrance was Murphy. The 1969 Miracle Mets general manager, his name was John Murphy, and their announcer was Bob Murphy. The site of the 1984 National League Championships was Jack Murphy Stadium. And finally, the MVP of the National League Championship Series was Daniel Murphy. He had a home run in every single game and batted .529. which the Cubs were swept 4-0 by the Mets. Which brings us to 2016. This was the year. The Cubs started off the month of April 17-5, which is fairly impressive. By the All-Star break, they were 51-30. They had 7 players that were selected for the All-Star game, including the entire infield, 2 pitchers, and a center fielder. They finished off the season 103-59 and had the best league in baseball. They won their division by 17.5 games. They went on through the playoffs and beat the Giants 3-1 in the divisional series, and they beat the Dodgers 4-2 in the National League Championship Series. They finally made it to the World Series. This was their first appearance since 1945. They had the longest World Series drought in history. All games started at 7:08 p.m., which converted into military time is 1908. I thought that this was a very weird coincidence. So the Cubs ended up going down 3-1 in the first 4 games, and they rallied back to tie the series and bring it to Game 7. The Game 7 went to extra innings, and there was a 17-minute rain delay before the 10th inning started. When the game was over, the Cubs were victorious, and they finally won the World Series and broke the curse. A few days later, in Chicago, they recorded the 7th most attended event in history of mankind, with recording over 5 million people attended the celebration parade and events they had in Chicago that day. In conclusion, I gave you a little bit of history about the Cubs and the Billy Goat curse. I gave you some other factors that proved that the curse was possibly true and how the curse was broken. Thank you for your time.